You're listening to the Abolitionist Round Table, patriotic Black American conservatism, with your hosts, Del, Phil, and Janice, leading the charge and advancing the 4%. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600.
And we are back, and we want to continue what we're doing, but before we do have someone on our hotline that we want to get in, and I'm going to turn that over to our guest this morning, Pastor Deitering. Pastor Deitering, would you introduce our people on the hotline?
Most certainly. As I was saying from the beginning, we have to, and we're just talking about this during the break, is we have to stop allowing politicians to usurp our authority as the people, because we are a government of the people. And that's one of the things, because we are constitutional and we are told by God to follow and obey the authority, and our authority is the Constitution in this nation, and that in Scripture first. But as a law, we are held in authority to the Constitution. So we have to make sure when we hand our sword and trust our sword on whoever's going to wield it, we have to make sure that they are going to be godly people that are going to do it and act in a godly manner, as us as a voting bloc, the Christians. So I put out actually a few calls to different people to come on and talk this morning. And of course, we had a representative of one campaign say, absolutely come on, and she's willing to put underneath there to talk about her campaign, and understanding she can't talk about other people's campaigns, but she can talk about the campaign she's working on. Mm-hmm. And I'm delighted that she did so. As Wendy Lynn Davis, she's Daniel. What's that?
Wendy Lynn Day.
Day. Sorry, you're right. I'm thinking.
Yeah, we don't want to compare her to Wendy Davis there in Texas.
Wendy Lynn Day. She's handling the campaign for Senator Cruz in Michigan. Mm-hmm. I first met her at a tea party where I first met you, Phil, in Lansing. Yes. Wonderful lady. But with that set up, I want to find out more about the man that she is representing. Yeah. And that is Ted Cruz. So, Wendy, are you there?
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry for the name confusion. That you owe me a slap later, and it's okay.
You know what? It actually has happened quite a few times, and that's all right. Anybody who talks to me for more than 30 seconds, the difference is very clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking before the break that we as Christians, first of all, when we elect someone, Romans 13 tells us as Christians that government wields the sword, and that authority is given by God. And in this country, that government is our Constitution, therefore we the people. And when we vote for someone, we are entrusting that politician to wield that sword for us. And I want to find out if Ted Cruz is the man that we should entrust with that as a servant. So just if you want to introduce yourself and introduce your candidate real quick, and then I have a few questions.
Yeah, my name is Wendy Day. I'm the state director. And, I was just talking with someone yesterday about this. And a lot of times we'll hear about a law or we'll hear about a policy, and we think it sounds like a good idea because we trust the person in charge. And I actually look at it a little differently. Whenever I hear about a new law, this is me personally, a new law or program or expansion of something, I always think, okay, what's going to happen if the person that I like the least is the president, and they have the power that office or law or, new function provides? Are they going to be able to do a lot of harm with it? Because and it's actually been really helpful to keep it straight in my head and not get distracted by liking a particular politician or leader. And it's much more healthy. So, as I'm looking at the political landscape, I see people love Donald Trump because he's brash and he's bold and he tells it like it is. People love Ben Carson because he is kind. And he's like a gentle Ben and kind and a good Christian man, and that's obvious. And people even love Marco Rubio because Marco Rubio actually is a great communicator. He tells stories and just really does a great job with our message. And, what I love about Ted Cruz is he is all three of those things. And he's been a little bit quiet so far, and that's good, actually. We're right where we want to be as a campaign. But if you like Donald Trump because of his brashness and boldness and telling it like it is, and you like Ben Carson because he is a kind man, fair, and a good Christian, and you like Marco Rubio because he's a good communicator and really tells our story well, then I think Ted Cruz may be the candidate for you because he is all three of those things.
Well,
and
above
that's
and beyond
why I
that,
enjoy working for him.
You know what, Wendy, above and beyond that, Ted Cruz is intelligent, he's learned, he is extremely well versed in constitutional government, and he's quick on his feet, so he can respond to questions given to him with an intelligent and thoughtful and deep answer. And that's one of the things I really like about Ted Cruz. That's another thing I like about Ben Carson, too. He has that same ability to take a question and give a good, deep, honest, heartfelt answer.
Well, you know,
yeah.
This is one of the things that, and I do have some what I think are tougher questions to come up, but one of the things I look at when I look at a candidate is a candidate's integrity. Where do they stand on how have they stood on an issue? Have they flip-flopped? Will they stand for what they say? Now, I can speak for what I've noticed with Ted Cruz is he is not what you would call a party man to where he's going to do whatever the party tells him to do. He's been willing to stand up to keep his word as a servant that he made to his constituents in Texas as a senator of United States. He's kept his word regardless of the outcome and the outfall of his own party.
Right.
He was willing to stand what was right. And that's one of the things we as Christians need to look at. Is a candidate willing to stand for what is right regardless of the, air quotes here, peer pressure that's put on him in Washington?
You know, Wendy, that point that Dr. or Pastor Deitering just made is very important from the opposite spectrum, in that the establishment class is going to go against Ted Cruz if he becomes the nominee, whereas if you look at those four candidates that you spoke of, Carson and Trump and Cruz and Rubio is the only one that the establishment will follow and back, as far as I can see at this point in the political process. How is Ted Cruz going to overcome the fact that he has burned some big bridges with the establishment?
You know, I don't think he's worried about that. You know, if he's working for the cause of liberty, then he's willing to work with anybody, Democrat, Republican, anybody for the cause of liberty. And really, you know, I think it's one of those things where he has actually, the leadership in Washington hasn't liked him, but you know what? Maybe it's time for them to go home.
True.
They can't handle it. Because he's going to lead, and that's what, he's not going to Washington to make friends. He's not going to Washington to pal around and do smoky backroom deals. He's going to Washington to lead. So,
well, the question that I have is, most of the people, especially the last two representatives of the Republican Party, they said that they were going to Washington to get things done. They could get things done. They could work with the other side. Here's the question: what is the thing that the Republican Party wants to get done, other than to stop the ever-present march of big government on the part of the Democrat Party? That's the only big project that they present that as taking something away from people.
Right, you're absolutely right about that.
So what is it that we have to really offer Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy on the other side?
Well, let me answer that. There's two questions there. So number one, you know, politicians by nature aren't necessarily leaders. Even let's take Lansing, for example. They go to Lansing and they, they're really going to do whatever is politically expedient. And so it's really about changing incentives. And if Senator Cruz gets elected as President of the United States, it's, number one, going to send a strong message to D.C. And number two, it's going to empower Americans to stand up against the political correctness that has kind of, tried to shut us up about what we believe in, about that silent majority. And I think it's going to change everything in D.C. in terms of, like I said, the incentives and what's expected and what's politically possible to get done. And once that happens, you're right, we have to have things we actually want to do. And I think Senator Cruz has that. We have big problems in our country. We have national security issues that are extraordinarily difficult. We live in a very dangerous world. And we're going to have to handle those. We're going to have to make sure that our military is well funded, but spending that money correctly. Yeah. We have to make sure that that we do return that power to the state.
Well, what I was saying about the Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy syndrome on the part of the Democrat Party. Whenever the health care issue, it has been by everybody's sight. This thing has been a monstrosity. Yep. Yet and still, the Democrats have twisted this thing and made it out to be that we have no alternative. And we have alternatives, but they just don't. They just aren't in a soundbite.
Well, the media won't talk about it, and you're right. We aren't very good about telling our story in a soundbite and a bumper sticker. Right. One of the things I think, if you look at all the very popular movies and books right now, they're all like Hunger Games, things like that. They are all centered around liberty and freedom. And yes, it looks on the surface that, the Santa Claus, whatever they're selling, free cell phones or whatever it is, seems like it is working. But at the core of Americans is still this amazing desire for liberty and freedom. And I think it's being reflected in the popular culture, in the movies and the books that people are flocking to because it represents freedom and liberty. So if you had to ask me what we're selling, we are selling personal sustainability. We are selling the ability for you to go out and pursue your American dream, whether that means money or not, and without government interference. That's what we're selling. Now, it may seem like that's not going to be a good product that people want, but I think it is.